Hello and welcome to Money, Me and COVID-19, where we meet with leaders from the world of business, finance, investing and politics to try and understand what's really going on in this pandemic and what we can do to survive it and then hopefully to thrive in the aftermath. My guest today is somebody who's been inspiring audiences around the world as an international speaker for many years. His expertise is in areas like technology, social media, and also setting goals and how the combination of those can make organizations successful. He's a past president of the European Professional Speakers Association and was inducted into the Speaker Hall of Fame in 2011. He's also very much a global citizen. He's worked in 58 countries, and his clients have included people like the Entrepreneur University, the Professional Cricketers Association, and the British Olympic team. He also practices what he preaches. He runs an internet business that's got more than 20 websites. And like me, he's a great believer in video marketing. And his YouTube channel has got over 700 videos on it that have enjoyed over 7 million views. He's also the author of 2 books, one called Walking with Tigers, looking at the success secrets of the really top businesses around the world, and the other on how to win more business and customers. His name is Frank Furness. Frank, welcome to Money and Me.
Hey, thanks so much, Graham. Great to be on the program and meet all of your wonderful investors and part of your group.
Well, thank you. Now, obviously, for those of us, and I put myself in this category, who like to jet around the world speaking from various stages, 2020 has been a bit of a funny year. So what kind of changes have you had to make to adapt to your kind of business routine in the year of COVID-19?
Well, it was absolutely crazy because I love traveling. In December, I split my life between Orlando, London, and Spain. And towards the end of last year was just fantastic. I was speaking in Miami, then Argentina, Chile. I was in Brazil, got back to London for a month. Then I was in South Africa for a month. And I had all kinds of things lined up. I had other talks lined up in Miami. I was supposed to be right now on a speaking tour of the Far East in Australia. Boom, gone, nothing, out of the diary. It was so bad, I even had to pay back one company that had paid me in advance. And I want to tell you, Graham, that is tough when you've got to do that. So I had to pivot and change my business immediately. There was no income coming in, but running 3 homes, you still got all the expenses. So what I decided to do was see what was really hurting and what I could do. And also during that time, one of my clients in New York phoned me. And he said, we're in lockdown, everybody is working from home. I need you to put a course together. And I sat for 2 weeks, about 16 hours a day. I put a course together on how to work from home, presented to his company, gave them all access to the online course, and then thought there may be a lot of other people that are in need of that. So I started running webinars on how to sell from home, and it just took off unbelievably well. I did them for free with the upsell to the courses at the end. And then I started doing it on other topics that I knew about. On LinkedIn, I did one on video and YouTube marketing that went really well. I did another one on how to do blogging. And my latest one that launches next month is how to create online courses. So in the past 4 months, I've sold 93 online courses, but also picked up a ton of other clients just through pivoting.
That's great. And obviously that's an example of what a lot of business owners are going to have to do because, particularly, I suppose it's one thing for somebody like yourself who's used to being flexible and working around the world. What about some of your clients? Because I think those that work in the leisure or hospitality sector, those with brick and mortar high street businesses, it's much harder for them to pivot. So what sort of stories are you hearing from them about the impact of the pandemic?
Some really good stories and some really bad stories as well. Many of them, I mean, some of them have just gone bust, unfortunately. Others are just struggling to get by, sort of surviving through the furlough and on savings and that kind of thing. But the smart businesses are saying, what do we need to do to change? You know, if you're an estate agency, how do we start selling online? I look at financial advisors around the world. This is the best time they have ever had. I work with them all over. And they're saying the biggest excuse clients always have is, I don't have the time. Everybody is at home now. So this is the right kind of time for you to be speaking to your clients. What I'd also say to them is use this time to teach all of your people new skills. They've got to learn about how to use LinkedIn. LinkedIn at the moment is just booming. It's absolutely fantastic. I post every day, and that's where I get 90% of my business from. So you've got to teach them LinkedIn. You've got to teach them how to prospect differently. So advanced Boolean and Google search strategies, how to use advanced LinkedIn strategies, how to do what we're doing right now, Graham, how to interview, how to run Zoom, how to sell using Zoom, because I've seen a lot of webinars and a lot of people just don't get it right. They put, they're in a business call and they've got a seaside behind them. I mean, that just doesn't make sense. It's not good business sense. So I think there's got to be a lot of re-education, and a lot of the smart businesses are doing that. I work with a billionaire in America, and he owns a company called Zippy Car Wash. And I just looked at their business plan, and it's just 4 pages of all kinds of new things that they're going to be doing. Coupons, going online, they're making videos. So they've totally changed. And this is what businesses have got to do. They've got to say, if we keep doing it the old way, especially in a brick and mortar kind of business, we're going to die. What have we got to do differently? I was in Spain recently and went into a restaurant there, asked for a menu. They've pivoted. They don't have menus. What they do is they bring you a little barcode on a piece of cardboard, you point your phone towards it, and you've got your menu. So there's no touching anything. And that's what the businesses have got to do. I think the other thing, Graham, is they've got to look at their customer service, because so many businesses are now using COVID as an excuse for terrible customer service. And we're seeing this with the huge companies. I'm seeing it with my gym that I belong to, seeing it with the telephone companies, the banks. There's absolutely no service, and yet they're still charging you. So if we're a smaller business or not that big, just look at your service. Just get back to people and cement those clients in.
I tell you what, I've got some clients for you here in France. I went into an Orange mobile phone shop here in Antibes the other day, and I just sort of I had my mask on, I was a good boy, I was heading towards the display of phones because I wanted to buy a new phone. And this big security guard kind of jumps in the way and says, what are you doing? And then some other woman from over my shoulder says, what do you want? It was like, how dare you interrupt our day? I mean, I just walked straight out of there.
I know, it's just crazy. And the bigger the business is, the worse it is. I went into the Apple store, and they used to be great for service, just terrible service. I wanted to buy the new iPhone 11. I would have bought it there and then. And the lady spoke me out of buying it. I'm like, how crazy is this? She's working there as a salesperson. And so there's a lot more training that needs to be done, I think, with a lot of the companies.
Yeah, and it's similar. You mentioned gyms there. I mean, one of the things we've done, in a sense, as a pivot, we've cancelled our gym memberships, and we're now getting online personal training lessons beamed into our living room. So again, it's going to be tough for those brick and mortar gyms, but again, the experience was just so horrible. You try to go around with a mask on in a gymnasium.
Well, it's even worse than that. I belong to, I think, probably the biggest gym group in the country, and I pay like nearly 200 quid a month, which is quite a lot of money to belong to a gym. And they sent me an email saying, okay, we're starting up again on the 25th, and we're going to be charging your account. And I wrote them an email, nothing back. I tell you what, the first day the money came out of my account, left 3 messages and did another 4 calls. Eventually I had to phone head office and just say, listen, I'm a platinum member. Your service is so bad. And then they all come back, yeah, we're understaffed. And well, don't be understaffed if you're going to charge people money. It's just crazy.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the political aspect of this. Now, you've written about the aspect, the habits, and the mindset of successful business owners. What do you think about the leadership that's being shown by governments in things like closing down the economy and so on? I mean, can you look around the different countries and say that some governments are doing a better job than others?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not really a political guy, but when I look at what's happening in certain countries like New Zealand, have really got it right. Right in the beginning, they enforced the lockdown. They were really strict about it. With us over here, from day to day, I really don't know what's happening because the rules change from day to day. When you come back, you're in lockdown for 14 days. It's just crazy. I was over at my place in Spain recently, And when they bring in a law there, they actually enforce it. So masks are compulsory everywhere you go. You walk in the street. And I remember going to a supermarket and just getting out of my car to walk to the entrance. And there were cops there giving people fines for not wearing their masks. So they really, really strict on that. It was quite funny when I arrived in Spain, got out at the airport and I got into a lift to go to the car hire place. And there was a Spanish guy there. And he said to me, "Where have you arrived from?" I said, "London." And he ran out of the lift. It was so funny. I was like, have I got the plague or what's going on? But then I arrived back in London and there's nothing. There's no heat testing. When I arrived in Spain, they had the little heat tests. They were checking on you. Come back to London, nothing. And I almost think they say, listen, we're going to put in this 14-day quarantine, but there's no enforcement. I can guarantee there will be absolute. You could come back, you could go to gym the next day, you could be walking around the shops. Nobody would know, because it's nice to put a law in, but if there's nothing to enforce it, it's crazy. And then if we look at my home country where I grew up, South Africa, I mean, they went totally the other way, where they went into strict lockdown, which started to be good, but then it got political and the government got involved and they banned cigarettes and they banned alcohol. And yet some of the members of parliament were involved in the illegal alcohol and cigarette industry, making billions of rands. So I just think there's so many governments that have never been in business. I mean, if they had to run a business, they'd be running the business into the ground, as you know, Graham. So there's a few that have got it right, but many, I think, that still need to learn quite a lot what to do.
Okay. It's interesting that one of the side effects of all this is a lot of people have suddenly found themselves working from home, which in some respects has been a positive, and they've kind of enjoyed a better lifestyle, and it's perhaps even given them time to pause and reflect on how they want to live in the future. But there's also been, I think, some kind of mental health implications of, you know, not having that kind of contact with other people. Have you got any thoughts or suggestions on how people can kind of stay motivated and stay connected if they're kind of forced to work from home?
Yeah, I mean, this has been a big movement. So there's some positives about it, working from home. My son and daughter-in-law are both lawyers, so they've got more quality time together, because they'd normally be working till about 11 o'clock in the city. But there are a lot of people that just can't adjust. And I really feel sorry for people, you know, maybe living in a 2-bedroom flat that have got 2 children, hard to get out. It's really hard for those kinds of people. And for me, one of the things I try and do is just some kind of regular exercise in the morning, go for a run or do some weights or just do something, because it is a build-up of stress. Definitely, you know, and nobody can tell you that it doesn't build up staying alone at home all the time or just staying with the family. So I think doing the things that you're doing the health and fitness online, doing those kind of things, exercising. What I also do is I take time out. I've got my set of drums set up here, so I go and play drums. It's fantastic because my neighbors don't speak to me anymore. I've got social distancing now because I make so much noise. And I also have some fun. When we had the going out every Thursday night, I would go and take my saxophone and go and play some music out in the streets, and everybody would come together. But there is a big challenge with the mental health things, because a lot of people don't know how to handle it at the moment, and it's not good.
Okay, so do you see this being a kind of a watershed year in a sense? You know, we've talked about the internet and the need to have an online presence, but we're also looking at a lot of companies giving up their big office accommodation in city centres, people wanting to move out into the countryside. Yeah, is this going to be the year we look back on as how our whole kind of working life and business change?
I think absolutely. We are going to see massive changes. I speak to so many of my business friends, and they say to me, why should we spend those massive rents in the center of London? Our people have got to sit commuting, pay absolute fortunes on the trains. They've got to pay car parks. They're way more effective working from home. They're doing the same kind of job. And with Zoom now, we can do so much more. So there is going to be a huge shift. And companies have just got to adapt to it. They've got to say, we're going to be working from home now. I'm working with a huge company in South America now, and they say it's been absolutely fantastic, because whereas they couldn't get meetings before, they're getting meetings with everybody now. And Zoom is I wish I bought shares in Zoom before this all happened. That would have been a fantastic investment, Graham. But we've got to learn the new skills. And anyone who's in business now, upskill your staff, teach them how to use Zoom. You know, I'll just show you my setup over here. So this is my setup, and I realized this is my new business. I'm not going into an office anymore. So some of the things, I'm just going to take the camera off here. Some of the things you've got to have is you've got to have great lighting. So I would say to everybody watching this, get your staff to get great lighting. I have a really good microphone there. So invest in a good microphone. And yes, something else as well. If we have a look there, do you realize you can use your iPhone as a webcam? So I'm just going to switch off at the moment. My webcam's looking at my camera. And if you go onto a little program, a free thing called EpoCam, I'll just click into that. And now we switch around. Now you can see my iPhone, and you can see the quality you're getting from the iPhone there as well. So a lot of this stuff is pretty inexpensive. I'm going to put this back here again. And I want to show you something really cool at the moment. When we started, Graham, you said you've got a nice office. Well, as we know, we've all got great virtual backgrounds, but let me show you what my office really looks like. So there it is. It's a green screen, and take a look at this. Oh, I've got wings, I've got wings. So my chair has got a green screen on it. And when I come in and run my meetings, I just come back again and just drop the background in. Let's just put that one back in again. There we go.
You've completely ruined the dream now. I'm going to have to admit that you're in Watford, Frank. You know, everyone else was thinking you're somewhere really glamorous. That could be Orlando, is it? Or what's that in the background, do you know?
I think it's somewhere in America.
Yeah.
It's just...
Okay.
Yeah,
okay, cool.
so also get good backgrounds, because it's those first impressions. I never show the people what I've just shown you now, but everyone says, wow, it looks absolutely fantastic there. My international audience have got no clue where Watford is, you know, so just say to them London, it means the same thing to them. But that background is so important. So there's a lot of re-education we need. We got to reteach all of our staff. They've got to get new skills. They've got to develop new habits.
Okay, well, I mean, it's interesting because, you know, somebody that's done as much coaching as you have, I wonder, could you pinpoint what's been the thing that you think has had the most impact on the organizations you've worked with, and why that is so?
I think the biggest thing is really training their people very quickly to do all of their meetings and to work online, and also teaching them how to work from home, because I've put a course together, working from home, and I call it the Home Blueprint. And there's 4 things we've got to change. H is habits. So we've got to get new habits, because working from home, you can get into habits pretty easily. You can sleep in late. I don't know if anyone else is like me, but that wine o'clock seems to be coming earlier and earlier every day. So that's another habit you can get into. The O is for optimization. How do you optimize your business when you're working from maybe a flat, or you're working from a bedroom at home? What kind of changes do you have to make? You've seen the things I've done over here. The M now is all about mobility, and we've got a bigger audience all over the world. The E is about establishing your expertise, and what you've got to be doing right now is you've got to be posting all the time. You've got to have a huge presence on things like LinkedIn, which is your business network. I'm not crazy about Facebook because it's not business, but LinkedIn has been amazing for me. I've developed a habit. 6:30 every morning I post, and there's certain algorithms when you learn how the algorithms work. So I get anything between 2,000 and 10,000 views. And also you have to know, this is another thing for everyone watching, is absolutely know who your target market is, because now you can go in and you can really see who they are. What does your ideal customer look like? You know, is it a sales manager? Is it a director? Is it head of HR? Is it a CEO? And using advanced Boolean or LinkedIn search strategies, you can actually go and find these people, connect with them. It's the new cold calling. So you connect, you don't try and sell to them, you just connect with them, get some kind of rapport going, and then they'll start looking at your posts. If you're posting great stuff that establishes you as being the go-to person in your sector or your business, you are going to attract people. And I know people that are doing really, really well just by posting to their target audience. I've got a guy that works in America, and he's got a very niche target market. So he teaches fund managers how to be better, and he charges up to $32,000 a year for his course. But because he's getting in front of the right kind of people, it might not be that many people, but they're the right people. They see what he's doing. He gives them some great stuff for free. and pretty soon they're phoning him and they become clients. And that's the same with all of our businesses here.
So when you're doing these posts on LinkedIn, what's the kind of mix? Is it some text articles and some videos, or is it all video? How do you do that?
So I do a little mix there. Videos get less views, so I do a video once a week. And then I'm really big on the thumbnail. So anyone watching, please go and have a look at my LinkedIn and connect with me. It's just Frank Furness, FURNESS, and you'll see every day. So sometimes I have a moving GIF, a funny GIF. The other day I had a GIF of 3 people getting together and forming a tiger, and that had 10,000 views and just so many comments. And when LinkedIn sees this happening, it says, well, this is really interesting. I'm going to push it up the algorithms. They start promoting it and you start trending. And all of a sudden you're in front of 100,000 people. You've got a whole new audience there. And there's other small little things like your headline. Have a great headline. Ask a question or make a bold statement. Have that all in capital letters. At the end, have great hashtags for your target audience. And then also ask a question so somebody can interact with you, you know. So today I've done a post on online courses, and my question might have been, why would you want to do an online course for your target market? And people came back, so it'll educate them, it'll do all kinds of stuff. Now we can start talking.
Okay, that's great. Now, obviously, I can't have a speaker like you on the program without getting some input on the speaking side. Now, we've all sat through, death by PowerPoint snooze-a-thons. When you're coaching somebody in how to be a great speaker, what are some of the key things that you really want to focus on, and how can we improve our method of delivering a live talk?
Yeah, again, please come on some of my free webinars. You'll see I have a ton of fun because there is death by PowerPoint. I've been on some of them and I've just switched myself off because I'm falling asleep there. So if you've got PowerPoint, go in and out of PowerPoint. I like to see all of my audience as well. So if there's like 30 people, I keep them all open on gallery view so I can make that eye contact. It's the same as if I'm speaking to a live audience. I can see them smiling. It was funny, the other day I spoke to 70 accountants and I thought, whoa, this is going to be tough. But I like to use a lot of humor, self-deprecating humor, making them smile, putting in the occasional video. And I watched all of them. They were sitting there chuckling away and giggling away. And it's the same thing. You've got to connect with your audience. You don't just say, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to sell, and come on and do it. It's exactly the same as if you're in front of a live audience. And it's amazing who also comes on your webinars. So I'd say to people, if you're an estate agent, run webinars for people on, is this the right time to buy? Whatever business you're in, run free webinars because you never know who's on those. I had 2 people on free webinars that I'd never seen before. One of them introduced me to the biggest online currency exchange in Far East, and they're looking to buy, I've got a financial services course, they're looking to buy a couple of thousand of that course. Now, that was just somebody sitting on a webinar. Somebody else that came said, I know somebody that might like some of the things that you're doing, and they put me on to somebody in South America, and we're now starting to work together. So it's a great time just to get in front of an audience that you might never know. If they see you as the expert, if it's fun, if it's interactive. I also like to put people into some of the groups sometimes, let them talk a little bit, have a little bit of chat amongst themselves. But the best thing, you've got to be excited. You've got to be enthusiastic. If you're standing here boring, the audience is going to be bored.
One of the things you're best known for, Frank, is injecting humor into your speaking. Now, I'm just sitting here thinking, you've mentioned America, you've mentioned Europe, you've mentioned the Far East. It can be really challenging to bring humor in without it falling flat with such different cultures and countries. How do you get it right when you're talking to these different audiences around the world?
I sometimes experiment, and if it works, I keep putting that in all the time. So, but I think the biggest thing is just monitoring what they're doing. And when I'm planning my presentation, I always try and bring in something funny. So right at the beginning, I develop rapport. So I talk about growing up in a little mining town, and then I became a drummer in a rock band, and I pull up this picture with my hair down here and a big beard, and everybody just bursts out laughing. And straight away, I've got them on my side. So I try and do that very early on, getting people on my side. And then about every 7 or 8 minutes, I try and bring in something humorous, like a little humorous story of something that happened or what happened to a client of mine. And again, I try and tell stories that people can relate to, that are in the audience. So if I've got, and also here's another thing I do, Graham, because I've got such a big audience. If I'm doing a webinar, I run the same webinar twice a day. I run it at 10 in the morning and 4 in the afternoon. Why? Because the ones at 10 o'clock in the morning are my maybe audience in the UK and Europe and Asia and Australia. My ones in the afternoon are for all of the audience from America. So if you're going to be doing this, think about your target audience, where they are and what suits them, not what suits you, what actually suits them.
And are those live events that you're running twice a day, or pre-recorded ones?
No, live. You see, I just think the pre-recorded ones are pretty boring. I've gone on a few of those and I just switch out of them. You need to have that natural interaction. You need to look into somebody's eyes. I think it's the same as, you know, you're going to go and do a speech for a big conference and they just put a video on and you watch a video. Well, that's pretty useless. It's the same kind of analogy.
Right, okay. I don't want to start any rumors about what you've been up to in lockdown, but I see you've suddenly started doing malt whiskey reviews on your YouTube channel. How's that going?
You know, this is fantastic as well, because I always believe you've got to have the fun side. So I love single malt whiskies. I've got a massive collection. So I started doing these reviews and all of a sudden I've developed a massive following. But also what I've done is I've attracted people that I would never, ever have attracted before. One of the top comedians in the UK is following me. He loves the things I'm doing. I then got an invitation for, when lockdown finishes, to join the biggest single malt and cigar club in London, because I'm also a big cigar guy. I've got a massive cigar collection, and I also do my cigar reviews. So that for me is fun. In the evening, I just sit down, do my little single malt review, put it out there, and you know what it's like. I just have fun when I do it. There's nothing too serious about it. But again, that's developed a big following and a different kind of audience.
Okay, brilliant. So, you know, obviously you're giving a lot of great information and advice here about the specifics of getting online, but is it your belief that virtually any business could have some kind of online presence, and that's what they should be looking for now to try and survive, you know, the worst aspects of lockdown?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people should start creating online courses, because in fact, I'm doing a course on how to create online courses. I just thought I'd give that but everybody, if you're in engineering works, you can create a course around what you do. And you might make that free. That gets in front of the audience who sees that you're the experts. And, you know, people from all over the world might start doing business with you. As I said, if you're an estate agent, you can put on the best time to buy and sell. If you're a financial advisor, you can put on, is this the best time to invest? When's the best time to invest? So I think any kind of business have got to think about how they get online, even if they're just posting on LinkedIn. And because you've got millions of people out there, that's your audience. If you know how to target them, you're going to get in front of strangers that you never knew before, and business is just going to follow. But you've got to be proactive. That's the thing.
Okay. Well, as we come to the end of our time together, Frank, I want to try and give you a little challenge, and that is to become a speechwriter for Boris Johnson, and to say that, you know, he's got to be able to give this major speech to the British nation that's going to kind of, you know, motivate them to get through this pandemic and come out the other side. Because don't forget, we've got Brexit knocking on the door later this year as well. So this is a chance to create a whole new Britain of the future. If you were given that speech writing gig, what are the sort of things that you'd want to put in there to try and really sort of turn around the negativity and the economic impact and everything into a picture of a, you know, bright sunlit uplands ahead?
I think firstly, you've got to get yourself a good team of speech writers. You've got to get, so you don't just go up there and just wing it, you know, and go off at all kinds of tangents like a lot of these politicians. They start off one and then they go off somewhere else. They avoid anything that's controversial. And I think we can learn a lot from, like, Obama, I think, was a great orator. You know, we've got to look at that. Bill Clinton was a great orator because they spoke so well. They had great speeches, and they've got their screens in front of them that they can follow, so they don't go off course. They use great pauses. like Boris, just never pauses. He just goes like a bullet train all the time. So I would just say to him, pause, just take it easy, focus on one thing. You have a great speech written, slow down, and do some inspiration for the nation, not for yourself. Don't try and be popular for yourself. Try and be popular for the nation. Give them what they want. I always go back and I'll look at Obama's speeches, and you may not agree with him politically, but as a speaker, he was fantastic. Bill Clinton as well. And they knew what they were saying. They stayed on track. They had great pauses. You saw their eye contact, and they brought in stories, bring in stories.
And of course, the irony is Boris is a great fan of and wrote a great book about Winston Churchill, who was one of our great orators. So perhaps you can learn some lessons there.
Well, I think in some ways he's trying to be Winston Churchill, but he's never going to be him, because Winston Churchill, I mean, if you just listen to him, and I mean, everything he did was practiced, written down. It was so funny. I'll look at some of his humorous quotes that he had there, which were brilliant, but every one of them was practiced. I think with Boris, he tries to do it off the cuff, and you just can't do that. If you want to be a great speaker, you've got to be focused on what you're doing.
Yeah, and I once had somebody come up to me after a talk I gave, and they said, "Oh, that was great. That was a really spontaneous talk." And I said, "Yeah, I think that the 9 rehearsals probably helped it to sound spontaneous."
I once did exactly what you're saying there, Graham. I did an interview with the great Zig Ziglar, possibly one of the best speakers ever. And in my interview, I was asking him, how many times do you rehearse? And he said to me, for every talk that I do, although I've done it 1,000 times, I will rehearse at least 20 times so that it looks perfect over there, but I've rehearsed that same talk that I've done thousands of times, 20 times before I go and do it.
Yeah, and in the end, whatever inspiration you bring to it, there's also some hard work and sweat and toil that needs to go into some really great delivery of speeches, isn't there? So you've given us some wonderful information, some great advice today. So Frank Furness, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Graham. Thank you.